Go ahead and get started. We'll begin with our prayer from Chaplain Michael Taylor. Chaplain Taylor, are you with us? Randy, do you have him unmuted?
Have asked him to unmute. He is in and probably. All right.
All right. Chaplain Taylor, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, very good. Well, welcome. And following our prayer, we'll have our pledge. And so, commissioners, let's go ahead and get started, please. Chaplain Taylor.
Yes. The county commissioners, they need for this meeting, Lord, thank you. Preparation they do, Lord. Thank you for in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain Taylor. All right, so we've got one addition that I know of to the agenda. Was sent to us by the county manager, and it's for the COVID-19 Relief Fund project. We're going to make that item 4A. Item 4A. And then are there any other deletions or additions or deletions?
Don't we have a correction on one of the items on the consent?
I don't think it was consent. My understanding it was in the minutes.
No, sir. This is Randy. If you don't, I can explain that real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, that was consent item Y, and what was presented was not reflective of the correct amount. So the corrected amount was sent out. That was in consent. So if you need to pull that off, that's fine. Or if you have the notes, but we do want to make sure that that's referenced in the minutes as well.
Okay, I got you. All right, I thought it was for last month's or last meeting's minutes. So thank you, Craig. So we will add the email making the corrections to item Y as part of the consent agenda. Are there any others?
Yes, sir. There's there is a correction on the minutes as well when you get to the consideration for approval of minutes. I'll mention that if you don't mind.
All right, thank you. All right, if there aren't any more additions and deletions, then do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Craig. Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, so the minutes, I know there's a correction in the minutes, Randy.
Yes, sir. This came from Aaron. This was a item that was a memo that needs to be included into the minutes. That's reflective of the architectural fees. That's not what was listed on the prior agenda. There was, after the board, there was an update, and we want to make sure that's reflected in the minutes as well.
Right, and commissioners, that was sent to us, so we'll include that as correction to the minutes. So do we have a motion to accept those amended minutes?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
then motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
In a
Second.
second. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen. All right, then we have the consent agenda as it's been amended before us, items A through Y. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
right, aye. All right, then we'll move on. Randy and April, or is there anyone for public comment?
We did not have anyone indicate they would like to speak during the announced times previously.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on then. If let us know if someone pops in. That way we got a late start today. We don't mind going back to them. We'll just keep moving. And if someone pops in, then let us know, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, no one in public comment, so we'll move on to item number 3. There were some budget amendments provided for us. We've had a chance to go through those. Is there a motion to accept the budget amendments as offered?
So moved.
Thank you. And a
Second.
second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, number 4, financial report. Leslie, are you available for us?
Yes, sir. The first chart before you shows annual cumulative current year property tax comparisons. We now have a full year for fiscal year 2020. And in total, we received $87.7 million in property taxes. 2020 was a revaluation year, and that is why you see such a large increase between fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2019. The $87.7 million is actually 103% of budget. So, and this is just the current year property tax collections. This does not also take into account prior year property taxes collected. But just the current year property taxes were $2.6 million greater than budget.
Wow.
So that was a good year, even though property tax collections did slow down during the months of April, May, and June. The next slide. This shows sales tax. Sales tax is shown through the month of April. And through that month, we had collected $23.4 million, which was 79% of budget. And the prior year, we had also received 79% of budget. And the 2 years prior to that, at this same point in time through the fiscal year, we had received 78% of budget. The percent increase over last year is 5.9%. We did budget in our budget for 2020 versus 2019, we did budget a 6% increase over the prior year budget. The next slide. This shows just the monthly sales tax collections. And so in the month of April, when we were sheltered in place, part of that time, you can see we had a decrease, but we still, well, we had a slight increase over the same month a year ago. So it was basically flat, which I considered a win considering we were sheltered in place. You can see the blue line represents fiscal year 2020, and you can see for most of the months, it is above prior years. And then the next slide. This shows annual cumulative revenue comparisons. For the month of July, we are reconciling property taxes in July for the prior month, which is June. So any property taxes collected in July are not reflected on this spreadsheet. That always runs 1 month behind. So that's not here. And then as you just saw for sales tax, any sales tax that we receive in the months July, August, and September are carried back to the prior fiscal year. So sales tax will also not show in this annual cumulative revenue comparisons for the new fiscal year until we reach the month of October. So what we show as revenue for fiscal year 2021 in the month of July was $1,331,509. That is 1% of our budget, as it has been in the prior 3 years. And the last graph shows annual cumulative expenditure comparisons. During the month of July, we spent $8,484,616, which is 5% of budget. And we were between 4.5 and 5% in each of the prior 3 fiscal years. That ends my report. If anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Are we on budget on that last slide?
Are we? Yes, sir. We are. We had the expenditures were up a little bit in July. We had 3 payrolls in July.
Oh, okay.
And that happens twice a year. So the increase in expenditures was expected.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Leslie?
Leslie, will the COVID relief funds that come through, will they be reflected into the budget for this coming year, or is that separate?
They, the guidance that we've been given is that although we received, greater than $5 million in fiscal year 2020, we'll only be able to recognize the portion that was spent during that time period. So for us, the expenditure report that you guys approved today, plus the expenditure report that you approved last month, those will be able to count as true revenue, and the rest will be held in a liability. Then as we move forward fiscal year 2021, as we're having expenditures that are eligible for those funds, they will move from the liability account into revenue.
So basically it's just going to be passed through.
It's passed through to the municipalities. For us, we received it. And most of the time when we receive money, you're able to go ahead and book that as a direct revenue.
Yep.
This time we can't. But as we're able to claim those and say we have eligible expenditures, then they do become part of our revenue stream.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's a good question, Craig, because we want to make sure in the future, as we have these conversations, that we're aware of those dollars that are flowing in that are not a typical part of our budget, and at least in our mind, keep those separate. All right, well, thank you. Now we'll move on to item 4A. And this was the addition. And so Manager Church.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for adding this to agenda. This is the first phase of the COVID-19 expenditures and plans, and Mr. Bogle is here to present. And we would ask the board after the presentation if the board is comfortable with phase one's plan, just to authorize us to go forward and go out to bids. Thank you for being here, Mr. Bogle.
Thanks,
That's-
Pete.
Yeah. I do have a PowerPoint or just actually a PDF, some quick slides to help go through this project and simplify it as best as we can. Anyway, if I'm able to share screen, I can do that. Looks like I'm allowed to. All right. That's the requisite. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Good deal. All right. So, quick overview of COVID Relief Fund. Projects. We were given this task to come up with all of the different expenditures that we can that are eligible to be used on the different county facilities, and as part of that, actually the municipality buildings as well. We have started hearing from some of those municipalities already, and actually I already have one project going with City of Kannapolis that's going to be under this. Here we go. So project approach, we started by setting up a task force with county manager. We let Aaron decide who was going to be at each of our first initial meetings based on what we were talking about at those meetings. So some various staff. My staff has visited every facility, every one of the county facilities. You can see a list of those over there on the right-hand side. And we've also interviewed each of the department directors. The first goal we have is to put together a full report of all the different pieces that we can, or recommendations of what we think we can do to improve the facilities as it relates to COVID. These are based on the most recent CDC, OSHA, and North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services guidelines for reopening offices during COVID. Of course, any work that we identify has to be eligible for CRF reimbursement. That's the goal. General recommendations, we'll be putting out we did put together some general recommendations for administrative or organizational solutions. Those are things that don't cost you any money, but maybe things that you want to look into to move forward. A good example of this, obviously with my background being in architecture and some building code enforcement, getting the Rowan County Inspections Department all online, being able to submit plans online would be one of those administrative recommendations, and other things like that that you can do to minimize how many people have to come into your offices. And then also specific recommendations for installations and constructions, two different things there. But want to focus on, and it's really a lot of this stuff is boiling down to some of the same elements. Minimizing shared touch services, providing sanitation options for public, creating circulation paths or patterns to improve allowable distances between people, creating separation between public and employees, and then also improving employee areas as it relates to employee distance from each other, employee separation from each other, and indoor air quality. So one of the first things we realized is that there's two pots of work. There's common solutions and there's design solutions. So in some discussions, we talked with county manager and decided, it would probably be smart to separate these two out into two separate bids. The biggest difference between common solutions and design solutions, common solutions are pieces that can just be purchased and installed. Whereas design solutions, of course, that's anything that has to have some design, some drawing, some review, plan review and permitting. Getting the common solutions out first in an independent bid, we feel is very wise, because all of this work has to be done by December 31st. Those common solutions are easy to install, but we're also seeing that A lot of other counties are going to be going after these same things. So the earlier we can get our orders in for these things, we're potentially going to have some long lead time items in this. So that's the idea between the two bids. So from here, I'm going to refer to as phase 1, phase 2, or common solutions, which is phase 1, and design solutions, which is phase 2. Yeah, kind of already said all of that. There you go. So design solutions, anything that requires plan review, permitting. If we're changing an egress path, if we're putting up glass partitions, if anything requires structural components, if we're cutting in pass-through windows, things like that. Obviously, those would be in the design solutions. All right, so common solutions, and this is the one that I really want us to focus on tonight. This is the one that we want to push out just as quickly as possible. We want to focus on maximizing social distance, touch-free controls, and interface. You can see some of the examples that we start to pull together over here from our report, and our report has, you'll see some excerpts of it here in a moment. But a lot of what the common solutions include are signage, vinyl decals, hand sanitizer stations, antimicrobial tape, which is an interesting thing in areas where you can't, in areas where you have to touch doorknobs and things like that, where you get past that. You can see kind of there in the middle of your screen, these blue tape pieces. Those are antimicrobial tape, and it lasts for, depending on the heaviness of use, it can last for 3 months. It can last up to 6 months until you have to replace that. Hopefully we replace these a couple of times, and then we're back to whatever normal is going to be from now on. Elevator buttons, things like that is another good place for this antimicrobial tape. Foot pulls, a lesson learned from the newer McDonald's, believe it or not. They put these little foot pulls on their bathroom doors. So if you go up to a pull door, you don't want to touch it. You just use your foot and it pulls open the door. It's fabulous. And then other kinds of touch-free restroom pieces like faucets and automatic flush valves, occupancy sensors for light switches in areas where we can, in small rooms where you can see the light switch. The simplest solution is to just replace the light switch with a light switch that has a sensor on it. Other areas like in bathrooms with multi-stalls, for instance, you definitely have to do overhead occupancy sensors. Otherwise, the light switch will forget that somebody's in one of those stalls. So this is our summary of all of the proposed phase 1 items. These are put together in the just general categories. This is an excerpt out. And you'll see that overall, what we've identified so far in wall-mounted signs, we're looking at 507 of those so far. Entrance-only signs, 136. Exit-only signs, 136. And this is we can go all the way through this list. There's a lot of work that's potential work that we're looking at here. To give you an example of a specific one, here's the summary from the administrative building. And you can see in the admin building, we're looking at 8 of the wall-mounted signs and 20 social distancing floor labels and all the other pieces. Antimicrobial keyboard covers, 10 of those where employees have to share computer keyboards, and several other little things like that. Now, our next steps in this is that we have a meeting with the department heads coming up this Wednesday. We're going to review with them all of the items for their specific building and get their take on it, see if there's anything we need to add or edit before we put together our final quantities list and our final list for this common solutions bid. After that, we're going to prepare the bid documents. Common solution bid documents are just going to include, really, it's a lot of lists. It's lists of those final items with the quantities, with the locations, specifications for each one of those items that we include, and then all the general bidding regulations. This would be above the North Carolina general statute that would require a general contractor's license, since one contractor is going to be in charge of purchasing all of these items and installing all these items throughout all of the county buildings. Would also likely include a bid bond and performance and payment bond. That's one I want to talk to county manager and to Leslie about, get their ideas on that. Bid forms, MWE forms, all the standard things, contingencies, and overstock items. Since a lot of these are purchase and install, we're actually going to purchase more than is needed, especially for items like the hand sanitizer stations. They have to come with refills. So go ahead and stock up on some of those refills. The antimicrobial tape, purchase more rolls than is actually required, that kind of thing. So that's next steps in this one. So what we're looking at is we'd like to advertise for bids August 24th. By the way, I meant to say up front, I apologize if this seems rushed. It's only because it is, just by the nature of being awarded it and then having to get this stuff moved forward as fast as possible and be done somehow with construction by December 30. Bid date, we're looking at September 3rd. And then we would come back to you guys at your next meeting, which actually is a Tuesday, September 8th, and present the bids to you for phase one. And then hopefully award that bid within just about a week. If we can pull that off, that gives our first phase, our common solution contractor, 3.5 months to get everything ordered in-house and installed. Next steps on the design solutions. And this one, we're not asking you to really do anything for tonight, but to kind of update you on where we are. We would have to complete all the schematic design, and all this is going on, by the way, while I'm putting together the bid documents. My staff is doing the schematic design for the design solutions of phase two project. So we'll be completing the designs for all of the sneeze guards, the partitions that divide public from private or public from employees, all those pieces. We'll come and present those to you. Hopefully, I've got an or here. Hopefully we can get that together with final decisions from the task force and the department directors by September 8th. So when we come to show you the bids on phase one, we'll also show you the final design solutions for phase two. And then after we present that to you, the next steps, of course, is bid documents and the drawings, specifications, bid forms, contingencies, allowances, get all those submitted to Building Code Enforcement Office for plan review, and then advertise for bids, hopefully September 14. Your faces are in the way here. There we go. Bid date is hopefully October 1st, which means that we could present the bids for phase two on October 5th and award the bids October 8th. If we can pull that off, that still gives the phase two contractor almost a full 3 months to do their bit of work. It's a tight schedule. It's going to be interesting trying to meet these schedules. It's going to take a lot of coordination as fast as we can with everybody. There's some talk that deadline might be extended, and if it is, the deadline for construction, that is, and if it is, obviously we'll come in and adjust these dates so they're a little more comfortable. So what we need from you guys today, of course, discussion and questions, anything you have on either of the phases, and then hopefully an approval of the common solutions phase so we can move forward toward getting it out for bids. And I've put together this timeline that we've been following as tightly as we can since this was actually the first thing that I did on this project once we were awarded, is I put together this whole timeline down here and we've tried to stay with it fairly well, and so far we're knocking along with it fairly well. So what questions might you guys have?
Pete, let me ask you a question. I don't know that this fits within the bid process since it's through the government. But would it not be advantageous to look at possibly breaking the construction bids into two separate contracts so that way, if it's awarded to two different contractors, they could both be working simultaneously on different areas
That,
to help speed it up? I'm just saying.
so the Common Solutions is separate from,
I get that. I'm
oh,
talking
you're
about
saying the second phase.
the second
We
phase,
split it
the
into two.
shortest timeline and the most work that has to be accomplished. Should we not possibly break that down into two different bid packages so that we can award two contractors the work?
From what I'm hearing from contractors, and I have talked to a couple that are actually very interested in this project, this is actually timing out well with when they do. One contractor I know does a lot of work with markets, Food Lines and Winn-Dixie's and things like that. And this is the slow time for those, for that side. So he's got folks not only on his own staff, but also subs who are ready to go with installations like this. Where splitting it might actually end up slowing things down is just the complexity that would add toward the bid and toward managing the bids. I'm good trying to approach it that way if we end up having contractors who say that, no, this is too much work for us. But I don't think it's going to be. A lot of what we're seeing that's going to be the phase 2 work. There's a lot of commonality in that as well. A lot of, we're actually, in some of our discussions we've had, decided to use aluminum storefronts and glass partitions instead of plexiglass. For a lot of reasons is because glass has a lot better availability right now than Plex does, as you can imagine with everybody ordering it. So giving it to one contractor who then gives it to one sub who was able to order enough materials through their suppliers to do all the buildings. I don't know, to me, from what I've seen in the industry, I would think that would be a faster way than trying to award it to two separate contractors. But I'm entertaining it.
I'm going off personal experience here, and I'll tell you what I'm trying to get to, I guess, is it's not going to be a material situation so much, it's going to be manpower. And to give you an example, the house that I'm finishing up was supposed to have been finished by April, and here it is going to be almost September. And it's all because of the labor. Materials were there. It's just everybody's busy and they can't get to it. So I'm just saying, is that an alternative that we can look at, or is that going to be too cost prohibitive to do that?
Right. So the advantage that we have in the commercial world is we can actually put liquidated damages on a general contractor. Once you award it to that one contractor, he says, yes, I'm going to have to finish it by this date, or you pay liquidated damages. So if he has to hire multiple subs to pull this off, that's what that contractor is agreeing to.
Well, it's great if they're available.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that I'm trying to avoid is here's December 31st, we're not done. And then I don't know what the federal government or the state or whoever's going to come back to us if they don't extend that date.
Right.
So that's my concern, not the material side of it.
Question.
Yeah, this is Judy. I have concerns, Pete, about the polls being ready for early voting. And then, of course, what do we got? 43, I think, different polling places. And the schedule you got there before you. Has that been all figured into things? Have you been in contact with Brenda out at our elections board? Because that's a real concern of mine right now.
So the Board of Elections is actually one that we went to first about their needs. They would obviously be prioritized because of exactly what you're saying.
Very good.
Yeah, and I hope that we can get all the polling stations done as well. That's a lot of polling stations are fire departments, libraries, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something we need to look a little closer at. So we'll make sure we get that into our scheduling.
Yeah, because the turnout, I think, is just going to be huge for this election.
All right, any other questions? Pete and Aaron, what, remind us, so what do you need from us tonight just to approve the plan?
Yes, sir. If you could just approve the plan as presented and authorize us to go out to bid.
Okay. All right, any more discussion before we do that? All right, do we have a motion to approve the plan has been presented by Mr. Bogle?
So
And,
moved.
and give the county manager authorization to go out to bid.
So moved.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. All right, Craig, second. Any other discussion? All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, then, that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait. I know, usually I'm the one trying to adjourn as fast as possible. No, just one thing that I would like to raise. The our elections board is desperately in need of poll workers, especially for the early voting, those 2 weeks. I don't recall exactly when that's going to start. And I know we're waiting on the state elections board for some decisions too. But
September 3rd.
if you can contact the elections board, if you are at all interested, you don't have to work a whole day. You can work half a day. And so there's lots of flexibilities and you will be compensated. So please consider that because a lot of our older poll workers are not going to work this year because of the virus.
That's right, yeah. Okay, good point. All right, well, thank you. And we're sorry again for opening late, but we finished well. So we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. Everyone stay well and have a good week. Thank you.